We have two visiting speakers today, and I think you guys are in for a real treat. We have Nile Hatch, who is an Associate Professor of Engineering and Strategy and is the Farr Research Fellow at the Marriott School of Business at Brigham Young University. He teaches entrepreneurship, innovation, and analytics. Dr. Hatch earned his PhD from the University of California, Berkeley, and a master's and bachelor's degree from BYU. Before joining the Marriott School, Dr. Hatch taught strategy at the University of Illinois. His research focuses on innovation as a learning process to resolve uncertainty, find the unknown and unmet needs of customers, which we've talked to you guys about a few times, I think, and how to innovate to solve them, and how they compete with rivals once they enter. He and his wife, Lynn, are the parents of 3 children. So we have Dr. Hatch, and then we have Chris Mattson. Christopher Mattson is a professor of mechanical engineering at Brigham Young University. He's the co-founder of the Design Review at BYU, an online journal that focuses on design-related editorials, interviews, product reviews, and commentaries on design techniques. Chris was born and raised, Dr. Mattson earned a PhD in mechanical engineering from Rensselaer Polytechnic in New York, where his area of research was multi-objective optimization. That's a mouthful for you guys. He was a mechanical design engineer and global director of engineering at ATL Technology. A highlight of his time at ATL was starting and managing ATL's 25-person Chinese design center in Guangzhou. Chris was born and raised in the San Francisco Bay Area. His parents were creators, and Dr. Mattson finds joy and relaxation in creative endeavors. He holds multiple patents. Chris and his wife, Melissa, are the parents of 4 children, and Dr. Mattson loves salty snacks and will take the long way home for a good view. So please welcome Dr. Hatch and Dr. Mattson.
Okay, thank you, Tara Lee and Russ, and thank you, students, for being here and for your interest in innovation. And I'm really grateful to be here with my colleague, Nile. Nile and I have published papers together and taught classes together. We teach 2 classes together every year, and really excited to share with you a few things today. But what we want to do is start with sort of why are we here? Like, why are we here? Why are you here? Why are we interested in innovation? Why are we interested in entrepreneurship? These are great self-reflection questions, okay, to have right now. We want to be here because we want to do good in the world. We want to innovate. We want to create value. We want to generate income. Okay, these are things we aspire to do, Nile and I. And we have many students who we engage with who aspire to do these things. And it just turns out that entrepreneurship is an awesome way to do this. So if that's what your interest is, and that's what you're working toward becoming or getting engaged with at some level, congratulations, because you do have a great path ahead of you for making an impact in the world. You're going to see on our slides, we have a couple of thought questions kind of at the bottom. We're not going to go over them, but they are worth pondering on so that you get a little bit more out of the lecture than just us saying some stuff. All right, so what is our objective for today? Nile and I have gone back into sort of the archives of our time together, and we have pulled out 4 insights about interdisciplinary innovation that we believe, if we share with you, will enable you to do these things we hope to do good, to innovate, to create value, and to generate income. So that's what we're after today. Throughout this time that we have, 50 minutes or so, if you feel like we've deviated from this, you should raise your hand and get us back to the objective, okay? We will not be offended if you interrupt us, and I know Nile will not be offended if I interrupt him when he's presenting some stuff, True. And I will not be offended when he interrupts me, because that's how we do our team teaching together. All right. We're now going to just tell you about our background and why we're here and why we have some insights to share. Nile's going to do that.
So we are faculty, a selection of the faculty who participate in this program called the Crocker Innovation Fellows. It is a 1-year innovation program where we bring in students from all over campus. Every team has mechanical engineer, electrical engineer, coder, entrepreneur, designer, etc. And then we have faculty who represent those disciplines who teach. And the students build innovations. They solve real world problems, always in the Internet of Things space, because that works well with the kind of teams that we form. And the fundamental purpose of this is that we create innovators and that we make the world a better place, that people's lives are better because of the efforts that we're doing.
Do you guys know what Internet of Things are? Internet of Things are physical products that are controlled by, monitored, or otherwise manipulated through an internet connection. Okay, so like smart sprinklers at home, or like turning on your Tesla that's out in the parking lot, all of those kinds of things are products that are internet connected. And that's the kind of products we have chosen to develop in our classes.
We focus on that because they require coders and mechanical engineers and electrical engineers and designers, and those are the people we have. And so we fit our innovation aspirations to the teams that build, which is one of the principles we want to emphasize. Our goal is to help people be innovators, and we've developed an innovation process that is actually really successful. The current wisdom, the conventional wisdom in entrepreneurship right now is fail early, fail fast, and unfortunately fail often. And I don't like that. So our approach is let's fail less. Let's fail much less. And we have a process that has become very successful at that. From a learning outcomes perspective, our students learn to innovate using this process. They learn how to collaborate in interdisciplinary settings. Typically, we learn everything about our major. We don't know very much about other majors. We don't know how to interact with them. We don't know how to work with them. But when you get into a career, you're going to work with people from other fields, other disciplines, other focus, and it's important to be able to, and that takes practice. Our students have succeeded at commercializing innovations. We've had a number that come out, and some you've heard of. I'll mention a few in a moment. So our students start companies. Our students go out and work in companies as innovators, and they come back to us and say how influential this was in their career, the doors that it opened, the opportunities that it gave. So
I just want to add, we've been working on this idea and following what works and what doesn't work with students. We're in our 13th year of doing this together. And you do something like that long and you see the patterns. And that's what we kind of want to share some of the patterns with you today. Go ahead.
Thank you. Yes, absolutely. So you may have heard of Owlet. It's a Utah County innovation and company. They were one of our first teams in the program. And they had, in 2021, they had an initial public offering. They went public as a company at a valuation of a little over $1 billion. That's our biggest financial success so far. But in 2020, Kiri, which was an innovation in the smart toy space, they created one of the top educational innovations of the year, like Time Magazine. Thrive Smart Systems, a wireless sprinkler valve system, they began selling just last fall. Really great technology, working in the irrigation space and in the agricultural irrigation space. Amano began selling. They are doing fantastic. They have a smart pool monitor, so it'll send an alert through the phone saying your pool chemicals are out of balance, and this is what you need to do. These are all very recent teams that are seeing success. And then this past year, our program goes from January to December. The teams in December, all 5 teams have an innovation that has a working prototype. They've presented it at trade shows. Customers have validated it, and they're going to commercialize.
Yeah, so that's the background on where we're getting the information we're about to share with you today. It's not just made up. It's not just like we think it's a theory that will work. It's one that we've pounded on for 13 years and had it evolve into a few things that we want to share with you now. And these are the 4 things, actually, right here. We're going to talk about scoping the innovation, building the team, understanding prototypes, and tying it all together. And the bottom line here is we're only going to share with you a couple of minutes on each of these. Okay, we could have like whole lectures on each one of these topics. We're going to share just a couple of things, hopefully to inspire you towards some of these good practices.
Over the years, we noticed this really wide range in the aspiration of the innovations of our students. Some would come in and say, we're going to cure diabetes. say, maybe. Others would come in and say, we want to start another soda place, mixed soda drink place. And we're saying, okay, maybe not the right scope. We need to help you build scope. And that led to us developing this typology. And the grounds for it, the dimensions of it, really straightforward. To what degree is the customer need known, and to what degree is the solution known? So the bulk of the innovation in the world is in this space, where customer needs are known and the solutions are known. This is starting another soda shop. A wide variety of things. And I always worry that I'm about to sound disparaging to this category. I'm not. Both of my parents are entrepreneurs in this space. I have great respect for them. But when you get an education, you're getting skills and human capital that let you do more than something that a high schooler can do. And if the need is known and the solution is known, everybody knows what needs to be done and how to do it. So you get huge amounts of entry and very high competition. So you might have a lot of revenue, but you probably don't have a lot of profit. We don't think a great space. If the need is known, but the solution is unknown, then we tend to be steadily, incrementally improving. We're going to make the battery last another 10 minutes. We're going to, give this more range. We're going to give this higher pixel density. Whatever the innovation is, this tends to be the domain for corporations, right? They tend to be working in the known space. They're solving known problems, and they have a whole army of scientists and management and other skills to help them. For us to succeed in innovation, we have to have a better team than they do. It doesn't seem that likely for a student innovation team. In the further over, this idea of within reach and beyond reach, what we're really talking about is where are the boundaries of knowledge? So there are questions that we do not know how to solve, right? How do we cure glioblastoma, a form of brain cancer? We don't know. But there are people who are working on the boundaries of knowledge, trying to move those boundaries. They can do that work. If you have one of them on your team, this is a really cool place to work. But if you don't have one of them on your team, you're going to be really miserable because it's just going to really struggle. Our sweet spot is right here. It turns out that you can reliably look at any group of people and find an unknown, unmet need. There are reasons why that's always true. And if that's true, then we can go in and build an innovation to solve that need, and we don't have any competitors. It's an unknown need. Nobody's solving this problem. So we go in, we get 5 years, 10 years without competitors. We get a foothold. It's profitable. It's fun. And it turns out that finding an unknown need is much easier than building an unknown solution to a known. So that's our focus.
Yeah, can I give you a tiny example? I know we don't have time for an example, but I'm going to give you an example anyway. We talk about our guys you met with last night.
Yes.
Okay, so we had a group a year ago, maybe, was it last year, whenever it was, okay? We said, look, your group of people you're going to focus on are middle-aged people with sports injuries, okay? All right, so any group of people's got needs, right? So this group of people, or this student team starts getting out there and finding out what are the problems that middle-aged people with sports injuries have. And they get lots of problems. They start talking to lots of people, and guess what they start finding out? These middle-aged people love pickleball, okay? And they're playing like all the time.
Pickleballers?
Okay? And no, not just middle-aged people like pickleball, but this is what they're finding when they're talking to the middle-aged people. And then they start to find out, okay, great, pickleball, great. Now we're starting to find that people are having a really hard time getting a court, right? You get to a court, it's jammed up, full of people, you're waiting the whole time, okay? So what these guys ended up doing was creating an innovation that would track how many people were at each court, and then send that to an app so that if you want to go play pickleball, you check to see which courts are open, which ones are not open. This is all done through some sort of Wi-Fi IP address related thing, which we won't necessarily talk about right now, but it's pretty cool innovation, okay? They end up selling these innovations to cities, and cities buy this as a way of giving service back to people in the city to know which pickleball courts are open. Now, the beauty of this, and this is what happens with most innovation-related things, while this was done for pickleball courts and being able to know how many people are at a pickleball court, can you imagine any other time when you would want to know the density of people in a particular area? Tennis, soccer, basketball courts, maybe like the concession stands at a stadium, or maybe ski lifts, right? So now you've created an innovation that was focused on a particular person's needs, like middle-aged people with sports injuries, right? And now you've got a solution that expands out widely and scales widely in the world. So anyway, that's that. We don't have any more time to talk about that. What we're gonna do is talk about building a team. If you want to create a cool innovation like that, you got to get the right people. How many of you have team projects going on right now in your life somewhere? Okay, a couple, great, excellent. We're gonna just go into this for a minute. We need to think about what is your definition of a team, and what have you been experiencing? I'm gonna tell you right now, my favorite definition of a team, this is most consistent with my industrial experience and my experience watching students, okay? It is a small number of people with complementary skills. First of all, you should think about the team you're on right now, and you should ask yourself, do you have complementary skills with these people? Or do you all have the same skill, right? If you all have the same skill, that's a little bit, it's not as awesome as when you have complementary skills, but a small number of people with complementary skills who are dedicated to a common purpose. How many times have you been on a team and one of the people's not really dedicated to it? Probably you're on that team right now, right? Okay, dedicated to a common purpose, also dedicated to performance goals and an approach for which they will hold themselves mutually accountable. This is a great definition of a team. When you build a team for your innovation that you're gonna start pumping a bunch of money into and a bunch of time into, you make sure you build something like this, and you have already increased your chances of success a lot. All right. Now, we're going to talk about, the title of our talk here is talking about interdisciplinary innovation. This idea is coming from a couple of sources, okay? And we've sort of meshed them together to share what we got here, okay? So first of all, multidisciplinary teams are represented by what we have up here, like discipline 1, discipline 2, discipline 3. An interdisciplinary team is much more like this situation, okay? And when we have a multidisciplinary team, what we end up finding is that each discipline is advocating for itself. So for example, hey, we gotta make sure we meet these quality requirements. Like an engineer might say that kind of thing. Business person might be like, bottom line, we gotta make sure we're getting the right margins out of this thing. And now we're like fighting back and forth in terms of how to succeed. Interdisciplinary teams, however, are not that way, okay? Interdisciplinary teams are more centered on what's called inquiry. So instead of the engineer saying, the only thing that matters is quality, I start saying, look, quality does matter, but tell me why the bottom line matters. Let me understand that. Let me understand how these two things go together. And when that happens, we start seeing an interdisciplinary situation. Now, here's a big giant orange slide, which I tried not to make orange, but I couldn't do it. It's still just orange, okay? We have a really interesting thing going on here. I want you to pay attention to this. This is a great one to take a picture of because we're not gonna get into it all the way, and it's powerful, okay? It's powerful, okay? What we have going on over here is I've got the multidisciplinary column, and I have the interdisciplinary column, where we're gonna look for a second at some key things that happen in team settings. So for example, the concept of decision-making in a multidisciplinary team it's a contest. It's like, can I get quality to be the most important thing? And he's like, can I get bottom line to be the most important thing? And it's a contest, okay? But in an interdisciplinary setting, it's collaborative problem solving. Now we're gonna jump down over here. Purpose of discussion in a multidisciplinary team is to persuade and to lobby, to try to get your view understood. But in an interdisciplinary team, it's about testing and evaluation. I just asked Nile a second ago, tell me why the bottom line matters so much. That's me testing and evaluating, trying to understand things. What is the participant's role in multidisciplinary? I'm a spokesperson for my discipline. But over here, I'm a critical thinker with insights that other people on the team don't have, okay? Patterns of behavior, strive to persuade others, defend your position, downplay weaknesses. See the opposite over here, okay? What happens to minority views in a multidisciplinary setting? They're discouraged and dismissed. But over here, in an interdisciplinary setting, they're cultivated and valued. And finally, the outcome here is we have winners and losers in multidisciplinary teams. And over here, we have collective ownership. And if you want to succeed at your innovation, and I'm talking about innovation when you're out of school here and you're actually pumping money into stuff and trying to get real outcomes, you need collective ownership, the people on the team. All right, that was Brian, or Nile, go ahead.
I think it's clear. To me, it's clear which one of those teams is more fun, right? Inquiry is a much more meaningful experience. So the question is, how do you get there? To me, the key is focus on your people. We're a team. We're gonna make a difference in their lives. And if you can have that focus, you can hopefully prevent this decay into the self-interested perspectives of advocacy.
Yeah, I see that all the time. When there's a fight in a team, it's pretty much coming down to like, I want my thing to happen and he wants his thing to happen. And it's like, who cares what you want? Who cares what I want? What does the end user want? What do the requirements of the problem say? Let that drive what's going on. Yeah. Oh yeah, I'm gonna do this piece. All right, we're gonna talk about understanding prototyping, okay? This is great, okay? All right, so Tara Lee mentioned at the beginning that I've created this thing called the BYU Design Review, where we have guests and other people write articles on stuff. And I recently wrote an article on why designers make prototypes. I've got this up here in case you want to go read the article. It's a valuable art, okay? In the article, there is a sentence that I read this morning in preparation for this talk that stuck out to me a lot, okay? And it was this. Most novice designers are often unsure of why they're making a prototype. They just know that someone else asked them to make it. And this is pretty much failure number one for using prototypes effectively, is not knowing why you have them, okay? So we're gonna tell you right now 4 reasons why we make prototypes. I'm gonna talk about a few of them. Niall's gonna talk about a few of them, okay? The first one is the one that you are probably going to encounter first in your life, and you probably already have, and that is that someone like a professor has said, make a prototype. And you said, okay, it's in the deliverables, I'll make a prototype. Or your boss has said, you need to solve this problem, make some prototypes, right? That is largely done to encourage product development progress. And you can probably put this into perspective pretty easily right now if you imagine your next team project that you start from scratch, and you put together a little schedule, and you say, let's have a prototype at the end of month 1, and another prototype at the end of month 2, and another prototype at the end of month 3, in preparation for the end of the semester. You can already see putting those on the schedule encourages development. And that's exactly what your professors have done when they said, hey, make a prototype. All right, next one here is the most common way we think about using a prototype, especially for engineers. This is our verification prototype. We want to check to see if the product or part of the product will function as we planned that it would. And this, of course, is magical with a prototype. In engineering, we learn mathematical models and stuff like this. All those mathematical models have assumptions that leave out reality. But the prototype doesn't leave out reality. It forces reality to be at the forefront of the discussion. And so that's one of the reasons why we make a prototype. By the way, we're telling you these 4 things because when you start doing prototyping, you have to have a pretty good sense for why are we making this prototype. The reason why you are interested in answering that question is because the prototype takes time and it takes money. And you can just make a prototype for prototype's sake, and then you lost a bunch of time and money. But if you make a prototype to see if something works, well, that was probably worth it. Or if you have made a prototype to encourage or demonstrate progress, that's also a good thing. And then the last 2 are pretty awesome too. So now will tell us about that.
Thank you. So in my experience, the majority of innovations fail, not because the innovation doesn't work, but because nobody wants it, right? It's solving a problem that doesn't even exist. And it's not hard to overcome that. One method is validation. Just reach out to people, share them this innovation idea. I think you have this problem. I think this will help. Tell me what you think. Have the conversation. They'll tell you wrong, unless it's your mom. Most people are going to tell you you're going to get great feedback, and they're going to nudge you in directions that are meaningful, so that you can get the innovation right, so that it'll solve a real problem and lead to a great success. Similarly, we can use when we work in this space, it's full of uncertainty. Like we don't know the need, we don't know the solution, lots and lots of things we don't know. So the prototype is a great mechanism for learning as an object used to build the experiment. So for example, you can take a prototype out into the field and just explore. Just hand them something and watch them interact with it and say, what does this mean to you, right? What would this mean in your life? It's a really great tool for exploration and a great tool to create assumptions as well as to test assumptions that you've made at any stage in the process.
So for example, and by the way, we should say that prototypes exist on a scale of fidelity, it's called, right? So we can have really low, quick and dirty prototypes, and we can have really expensive, time-consuming prototypes to make. And these exploration prototypes are usually lower fidelity prototypes. So for example, sometimes in our class, we will hit this home by saying, this is my prototype right now of a new IoT device that sits right here, and it's a camera that watches you to see if you're asleep during the lecture. All right, how do you feel about this? Anyone have a comment? How do you feel about it? Okay, uncomfortable. Excessive, okay. Okay, so we're just gonna pause right here for a second. These are all great comments, by the way. In less than 30 seconds, we had an idea, we had a prototype, and we had feelings from people in the market. And you were able to at least express those a little bit, and those can lead to all kinds of conversations about, let's talk about you paying for school. How do you do that? What are your problems with paying for school? Or, whatever it is. And that is how these exploration prototypes work. I don't think there's anything in here, by the way. Okay.
You don't want to hear about the discomfort of that camera after you've begun trying to sell it, right? That's way too late. You want to hear it at the very beginning.
Right. Let's say the Apple brand wanted to start creating blue jeans, okay? There's like something a little bit wrong there, like it doesn't work so much, right? The brand Tupperware is about to go out of business, which is a weird thing, right? What if Tupperware had decided we want to start doing smartphones, right? It doesn't work, right? So the brand informs the product, and the product informs the brand, and the brand informs the user experience, and these things go around in these ways. And so while we can talk about brand, we can talk about user experience, we can talk about product, and these can be sort of vague terms. In our classes, what we do is the students do the things that are in these clouds, okay? So to define the value proposition, the students create a persona and do a market analysis. We won't talk about a persona right now, but if you don't know what that is, you should type it into Google sometime and figure it out. It's useful, okay? And we have our students, for the user experience, create a story, meaning we understand who the person is who has the pain, we understand how they interact with the product, and we always have them make web pages, landing pages we call them, as ways of running Google ads and other things to test the market, see if the market's looking for the solution that is offered in the value proposition. Over here we have brand, and in our brand, we end up with a thing called the style guide. This is like exactly what you'd expect for branding. It's like a color scheme, some fonts, some logos, and stuff like that, messaging. And then the most common one on here for engineers to think about is the product, right? This is where we have prototypes, and we're looking at physical representations of the product, or even digital representations of the product in renders. Okay, the last thing that I want to say about this, okay, is we have all of our cards. They're all uncertain. We throw them all up in the air at the same time, and some innovation teams will freeze and not know what to do with that. It's too much uncertainty all at once. And frankly, it's a lot of uncertainty, okay? But you start by trying to get a basic value proposition, and then you get a basic, any one of these, start with any of these, a basic one of these, and then let them start to inform each other, okay? And then you let iteration, the process of iteration, meaning evaluating a product and its brand and its user experience and the value proposition and seeing how it can become a little bit better. And then day by day, making it a little bit better. Now, what would you like to say about this?
As I listen to this, I think there's a risk that what you're hearing is this is going to take years and this is going to take all this effort. But remember, a tube on the side of the wall. I taught this approach, this process to BYU's MBA class this year. I had 6 weeks. That was it. When we do this, we spend a year, 6 weeks. At the end of 6 weeks, they all had a domain name, a landing page, a prototype that they could present to the public, and they were saying buy now, and using analytics to make decisions about where they stood and what they could do next and how they're going to find it. In that very short amount of time, as busy as they are with all their other classes, about a third of the teams validated a real pain and a real solution. Right? This can happen really fast, and it's very effective.
Okay, we have now talked about all 4 of these, and now you have been left with the question, now what? Like, what are you supposed to do with any of this stuff, if at all? Well, first of all, I'll tell you, I've learned in my career that when you come to a seminar like this, if you don't do something with it within about 24 hours, you'll never do anything with it, okay? So I recommend that you pick at least one thing that you heard today and turn it into something real for you. And our suggestion are these things right here. Now, do you want to take a stab at some of these?
Yeah. So this is that scoping question, right? What is it you want to do? Whatever it is you want to do. If you want to cure cancer, great. Build a team that can do that. If you want to solve a known need with a known solution, then start, get going, get it going. If you want to have the highest probability of success, choose a group of people and get to know them, get deeply into their lives, and you will find an unknown need.
I'm just going to go to number 2 for a second here, which is to say most of the world's hard problems and a lot of the ones you may be interested in or find the greatest satisfaction in the future are problems that are too big for one person to solve. And it requires insights from people of different disciplines and different backgrounds. Therefore, I recommend that you cultivate an interdisciplinary mindset, that one giant orange table in the far right column, okay? And then surround yourself with others who share interdisciplinary values. Now, you want to take number 3?
Yeah. Prototype because you need it. Ask yourself, what is the most urgent unknown? What is the thing I need to know? And then ask, what prototype will help me answer that question? It's often not a step forward in fidelity. Sometimes the next question is answered by putting a tube on the wall. It doesn't have to be ready. It has to be able to answer the question, whatever it is. And so determine that question and build the prototype to serve that purpose.
Okay, I'll take number 4 here, which is the thing we did on the previous slide, which is the interconnectedness of the value proposition, the user experience, the product, and the brand. You should begin to believe that this is the case. If you don't believe that's the case, what will happen is that as an engineer, for example, you will think the product is the only thing that matters. And then you'll create a product that doesn't have a brand that's evolved well with it or doesn't understand the user experience or isn't even centered around a value proposition. So you try to begin to understand this interconnectedness and then allow yourself to have preliminary versions of stuff while you work into more higher fidelity, finalized versions of stuff. Now, take number 5.
Many of the things that you don't know are known by somebody else. Probably not completely, but at least partially. You should leverage that. Don't do everything on your own. Get great mentors. I think probably half of the reason of the success we have in our teams is the mentoring that we do as we help say to students, you need to nudge it in this way. You should make this decision. You should go another direction. You need those mentors. They will help you make more informed hypotheses, more informed decisions, and it'll lead to a much higher probability of success.
Okay, so now just back to our objective. It was to share with you 4 insights about interdisciplinary innovation that we believe can enable you to do good, to innovate, to create value, and generate income. We now are We now have maybe 2 or 3 minutes for a couple of questions, and then we'll be at lunch with some of you where we hope we can find out whether this worked for you or didn't work for you. Okay? Question time. Or thoughts? Yes, Russ.
I have a question. One of the scariest things that I've seen for students is when they actually go out to what ways or tools have been used to help students get up.
Go ahead.
Good. So we get that a lot, right? It is uncomfortable. It's actually really easy. If you know who the people are, it's usually around some dimension of their life. Adults with, middle-aged people with a sports injury. Tell me about the last time you had an injury, or tell me about the last time you had an injury and you needed physical therapy, or tell me about the last time you had an injury and you missed work because of it. Just get them telling stories. People are terrible at articulating what their pains are. We are really good at complaining. So get them to tell their story, get them to start complaining, and you'll bond with them and they will share. You'll be amazed what they will share.
Here are 2 answers that have affected me as an engineer. Okay, number 1, it's really good for you to be okay being a student. Okay, play the student card. I used to talk to people and try to pretend like I wasn't a student, right? And that's just like sort of disastrous. You'll get into way more conversations if you say, hey, I'm working on an entrepreneurship project, and I want to ask you a couple questions about the last time you had a sports injury. You'll be like, great, I'm happy to tell you all about that. I remember when I was a student and worked on stuff, I'm ready to help you. So that's one thing. And then the next thing is, if you have a prototype, it's really easy if you have, not this prototype, okay? It's really easy if you have a prototype to say, hey, check out this thing, I'm trying to design it, you have some feedback, okay? But as an engineer, I always felt like I had to have a high fidelity prototype. You're totally good saying, hey, I'm thinking about a thing that attaches to the wall that tracks whether students are asleep. What do you think? Okay? Being willing to do that opens the discussion a lot. In fact, one of our teams that Nile had mentioned up here with the Novi security systems, they went to a certain part in Provo where there's largely renters. Okay, so people who own houses have things like, Vivint, home security, and all this stuff that have subscriptions. But if you're a renter, it's a disaster, right? Because you're moving from place to place. They went to a spot where it was all renters. They got a piece of cardboard. They got a cardboard box and covered it with tinfoil. It was so stupid. And they took some Sharpies and put some circles on it. Okay, and they did exactly what I did over here. They said, hey, what if there's a thing we attach to your wall? They're talking to people in Provo. Attached to your wall that tells you whether someone comes into your house and then sends you a text message. And that discussion was awesome because they're like, totally, right? They didn't ever stop to say it shouldn't be tinfoil and forget about the Sharpie, right? They didn't get into any of those details because they knew it was just a visualization to have a conversation about.
That was really a turning point moment. They went on, they commercialized, they graduated from the Microsoft incubator. They were on sale at Lowe's and Home Depots, and they sold that company to another buyer probably 5-6 years ago. And that was a momentous moment for them to learn those insights from a really simple prototype.
Okay, so we have exhausted our time now, and we will give time back to Russ to decide what he wants to do now. Okay. Thank you.